Welcome back to the Radio Academy podcast. I'm your host, Georgy Jamieson, and this week we have a special edition where we go behind the scenes at the very first Crossed Wires podcast festival in Sheffield. I was there finding out what Crossed Wires is and checking out the live podcast shows and recordings. You'll hear from some of the podcasters there, like Steve Lamack and Brown Girls Do It Too, plus the organisers Dino, Sofos and Alice Levine. And there's a case of mistaken identity with Greg James. I also got chatting to some volunteers and shown around the pop-up podcast booth. But first, I went along to the launch party on Friday evening, where I bumped into a fellow of the Radio Academy and a Yorkshire broadcasting legend. We are at the launch event of Crosswires in Sheffield. We're looking out on Sheffield. I'm with Steph Hurst.
Hello, this is fabulous because I'm from literally down the road, so you're in my manor.
I am, I'm in your patch, aren't I?
In my patch. Well, I'm from Barnsley, which is, you know...
It's all up that way, isn't it?
Well, if you speak to some people from Sheffield, they'll say we're not the D-Dars or whatever.
I'm a southern softie, I know nout.
Well, welcome to South Yorkshire, and what's wonderful about this is that, do you know what? I feel a little bit like I'm in London because there's lots of people who I would usually see in London, and I'm seeing them here at home, which is fantastic. It's genuinely, I'm, Alice Levine and Dino, who were doing the speeches then, and Oliver Coppard, the South Yorkshire Mayor, speaking earlier. What is so fantastic is what Dino was saying, and the fact that you've got all these worldwide podcasts that are going to be made here in Sheffield, and they're going to be doing this for 3 years to start with. But this is just truly fantastic. It's so exciting to be here and see so many people. Greg James from Radio 1 was here earlier.
I got a hug off him, and he did, because I think he thought I was someone else.
Literally, you look around and you go, oh my word, you're here in Sheffield. This is fantastic. And this is how it should be. And Dino says, what was the word that he said? Why shouldn't it be in Sheffield? Give me a good reason why it shouldn't be here, because there isn't one, because it should be here in Sheffield. This is fantastic. Love it.
It's a really vibrant night, isn't it?
So good, so good. And the ham hock terrine that is being delivered on trays is lush.
I am picking out my teeth.
Yeah, you're not using my toothpick though.
There you go, wise words from Steph Hurst.
Thanks very much.
That's all right. I'm with Dino and Alice, who are two out of the three people who have created Crossed Wires. Dino, why did you want to create a podcast festival in Sheffield?
Well, let's start with the Wire Podcast Festival first, because I don't think anything like this really exists with this ambition and this scale and this sort of level of names that we've brought to Crosswires this weekend. And we were all just sitting around sort of a year ago, was it?
Plus,
over a year ago, in a pub, in a walk in the Peak District, and sort of talking about why nothing like this existed and how it would be achievable. Our sort of third co-founder is a guy called James O'Hara, who founded Tramlines Festival in the city, which is a festival which is dotted around multiple venues, bringing really big names to the city. So we thought that was quite a nice model, with a free fringe element but big headline shows. And then to answer your why Sheffield question, well, it's an incredibly creative city known for kind of storytelling and music production and sound, so that feels like an obvious fit. And also, it's just a very kind of compact city where you've got incredible venues like the Crucible and Sheffield City Hall, which has 3 venues within it. This amazing fringe venue which we're in now, all within kind of minutes of each other. So you're not having to get in a taxi. You can just walk around the city. When the weather's like amazing like it is today and sunny, it feels really nice. So there just feels like a really great energy in the city, which is exactly what we wanted.
You are credited with inventing the podcast, Alice.
I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. I don't know who said that, but they're a very smart person.
No one.
No comment. Absolutely. Print Epstein.
So, Dino, I asked Dino about why a podcast festival. Why for you a podcast festival?
Well, my background is in making podcasts and hosting podcasts and producing podcasts, and also touring live podcasts. And I think I just recognise the appetite for a live offering. That's just grown and grown over the last few years since my dad wrote a porno, has done their world tours. And we were quite early on it because we were quite early into podcasting. So, we kind of... I don't want to say we were trailblazers. I would hate to say that we opened up the whole industry. It seems too much. But yeah, I just kind of thought the things that I've been to have always been very industry. They've always been very focused on production companies and networks and channels, and it's just not been focused on people who like to listen to podcasts. And we wanted to create something that was for listeners and was for people who like to go to live things. And we just couldn't believe it didn't exist. And we wanted to sort of steal some DNA from sort of Edinburgh Fringe, from tramlines, from Dot to Dot, from, you know, all of these things that we've loved attending. And then I guess a bit from all of these live shows that over the last 3 to 5 years we've been buying tickets for, and we've been in those rooms. And although podcasting is sort of this solitary affair often where it's in your ears and it's a very intimate experience, when you're in those rooms of 2,000 people, like we've got at City Hall, it's magical. Like, you all get the jokes, you all know the kind of catchphrases, you all know the stories. You're in this like expedited state of sort of familiarity where, you know, you can start running rather than kind of having to bring everybody up to speed. There's just this like great feeling of being in a club. So we wanted to capture that, and this is year one of many, and I'm just so proud that we've already, I hope, captured that, even though this is just kind of the kernel of where this could go.
I'm with Greg James. I'm not entirely sure who he knows who I am. You think I'm someone else, don't you?
Yeah, I thought you were someone else last night, and I gave you the most over-familiar hug.
It's lovely.
Ever.
And
but I don't regret it
no, I
at
don't.
all.
The thing was, I was like, I can't say now. I'm going to have to just style this out.
That's okay, isn't it? In a way, you know, radio people know radio people, sort of intrinsically anyway.
It's interesting what you said in the session at the ballroom about how you think that radio has helped podcasting has helped radio. It's all audio, and the more people absorb audio, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's growing. It's a growing industry. I mean, look at the monstrous companies that have come on board and want to do podcasts. Monstrous companies do rule the world, but there are some benefits in that they can pay people to go and make wonderful things, and that can be tricky sometimes to get your head around that. But it's great that there are people who want to leave school and go into podcasting or audio or radio, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Greg, thank you so much.
I thought I'd met you backstage at a Tailender show in Sheffield because we talked about local radio and how great 5 Live is, and it's not you. It's someone who looks like you. I think that's what it is.
So there's a woman walking around Sheffield who looks like me.
Well, thanks for the interview.
That's all right.
Goodbye. Forever.
I'm in the studio at the Crosswires Festival. They've got their own kind of pop-up podcast studio. What's your name, please?
Izzy Weeks-Hankins.
And you're one of the volunteers here?
Yeah, one of the volunteers. I'm a third-year journalism student at the University of Sheffield, so come down to give a helping hand, yeah.
Tell me about the studio. It looks amazing.
So this Rodecaster, great podcast equipment on loan from the university journalism department, and we've just had people come in reading some scripts or doing a bit of off-scripting, like chatty podcasting. It's been great.
So this is a way that people who just come to the festival, they can have a go at making their own podcast.
Yeah, because I feel like podcasting, you've got to have all the right equipment. You can't really try it out yourself at home, but like here they get to come in, put the headphones on, have a go. Yeah, we've had all sorts. Have people chat about the Euros, chat about how they love sausage rolls, all sorts. Honestly, it's great. It's great to have like the best equipment as well, and seeing the kids, like their faces light up when they hear their voices. It's just like, it's great. Yeah, it's really nice.
So you're a journalism student, third-year journalism student at Sheffield University. What do you want to go on to do? Do you want to work in audio?
Yeah, I'd love to work in audio. Yeah, podcasting has become a real passion of mine. I did my final project dissertation as a podcast, and yeah, it's a real passion. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be something I'd enjoy, but it's amazing. I love it.
I wouldn't mind having a go at some of this stuff myself.
Go for it, yeah. Sit down.
Oh, come on, I'm going to sit down. Right, I'm in front of the console here. Got a mic, got my headphones. Pop those on. We've got 4 mics here and headphones, and then the faders as well. all lit up. Actually, it's really nice because I love the colours on this. I can see why the kids love it. And then it's soundproofed as well. It's amazing. And then if people make their podcast, do they get to listen back to it? Do they get to take the MP3 or whatever away, or just listen back?
They don't get to take the MP3, but they can listen to it in the studio, see what they sound like. I've had a couple of people laughing at themselves. A couple of people cringe, but for the most part, people love it, yeah.
Brown girls do it too. You've just had a standing ovation. That was amazing.
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah, and I wasn't expecting a standing ovation.
It was really lovely. Still a bit like adrenaline from it. We literally just walked off stage just now.
This is something that we do. We do this to ourselves because from my understanding, most people are sitting and talking, and it's kind of a podcast. Is it? I mean, you tell me.
I've been to some of the sessions today, and that was much more of a stand-up comedy show. You were doing skits, you were doing the song. So what we saw tonight isn't the actual podcast, but it's based on the podcast.
It's not the show or it's not the podcast. It's literally a mashup.
Today was a very unique thing. It was like we did a specialist thing for Crosswires as a bit of an exclusive, and it was a mix of our podcast and the show, which is exactly as you said, sketch. Our podcast is very much Poppy and I talking about our personal lives and having guests on and talking about sex and relationships.
And we started out talking about sex and relationships, but we moved on. But our DNA is like sex, relationships. We talk about trauma, talk about our daddy issues, our mum issues.
Sex is the door for everything, though. You start talking to someone about sex, they'll tell you all of their other secrets.
Sex is everything, though, isn't it?
And everything is sex.
Sorry, that's our tagline for our
podcast,
I think we just are perfectionists, and we love we enjoy what we do, we have fun, and we really want to give an audience a show. But Rubina said this earlier, it's like we don't see brown women in these spaces, and certainly not paying a lot of money, what we think are a lot of money for tickets. So, and you said this actually, Rubina, it's like they could listen to us for free, so why would they come and see us? So that's why we're like, jazz hands, a song and a sketch, and then the live show is less salacious than the podcast.
You said that you were a bit surprised to be asked to Crosswires. Why? You've won awards, though. This is the BBC Sounds podcast. Did you not feel you should be here?
Well, the podcasting world is still quite male-dominated, and you can just tell that from the charts and who's making the most money and who gets asked to return. And so for us, we still feel like outsiders, and that's really saying something.
Outsiders, but not imposters.
Yes.
Not imposters. Like, I absolutely feel like we've earned, those sketches, we co-wrote them with our director, like we were very much part of the editorial and like the spine behind it, so we don't feel like imposters, but outsiders, definitely.
But podcasting's really cool because you can do like a niche. We're like a niche thing, and people who are into us are mostly like Asian women, and that's okay because you can have a niche audience, and that's fine. We're happy to be on the fringe of Crosswires. That makes us feel really good.
Yeah.
I am in the Wondery Kids and Family area of the Crosswires Podcast Festival, and I'm here with, what's your name?
Darcy.
We've got this amazing, brightly coloured beanbags, really comfy, welcoming area, pinks and greens and oranges and things. What is the kids and family area?
So basically, we've got a range of headphones here, and they've both got 2 different channels on them. So literally just push the button on the side of the headphones to change the channel. One of them is just music playing out, and then the other one is like a story. So basically what we're trying to do is encourage the children to try them out, even the parents as well. Just have a listen, flick through the channels, basically just get them interested in it, spark up an interest. But yeah, just have a chill and basically just get them immersed into kind of the podcasting world, really.
Have you had many people come and have a go?
Yeah, loads of people. There's been loads of children today, and they've absolutely loved it. They found it really fun.
You're one of the volunteers at the festival. What made you want to volunteer for Crosswires?
I just love podcasts, really, and I thought it'd be an amazing opportunity to kind of get a sort of inside look into the world of podcasting. I've met a few of the people who have come here to do their podcasts in front of audiences and stuff. And yeah, I just thought it would be a really good experience. Potentially something I'd like to get into for my future career after university.
So what are you studying at Sheffield University?
I'm studying journalism. I'm currently in 2nd year, going into 3rd year in September, which is terrifying, but I'm also really excited. Yeah.
And this audio podcasting is something you want to move into with the journalism when you leave university?
Definitely. I'm definitely considering it because I feel like obviously technology is developing, and podcasts over the past even few years have just absolutely boomed. Like, they're really popular now, and I think it's definitely the way forward.
We've just come out of a session with Steve Lamack at the Crosswires Festival for the Price of Music. Steve, what made you want to come up to Sheffield for this inaugural Crosswires Festival?
I mean, one, any excuse to come to Sheffield. But two, we were incredibly chuffed to be asked because we're a relatively new podcast. But the opportunity to be able to record an episode in front of an audience just was something which was really exciting to us. And obviously, we looked at that. I said, who else is on? And it's an amazing bill. And, some of the best podcasts out there are represented here. And just, when you see Greg James is on somewhere, and obviously Alice Levine, and you think, well, if these people are involved, this is going to be good. But also, that around Sheffield, the audiences are going to be, they're really giving because they're really interested in music. They have their strong opinions, but they'll listen to you. I wouldn't have wanted to do it anywhere else, really, our first live recording, because I just trust people. When there's a new event in Sheffield, you think, well, if I'm going to go anywhere to something which is not, never happened before, I think I trust people in Sheffield. So let's just do it.
It was fascinating subject. You had a couple of guests talking about the music industry. This is quite a new podcast that you've got going on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The whole idea was to start something which would help demystify the music industry for people who wanted to be in it, emerging artists or people who wanted to get into management. It's all about the next generation, really. But as well as that, it's supposed to, explain to music fans why certain things happen and why the music industry looks mad from the outside. It's because it's mad on the inside. And so we wanted to sort of convey that, but in a sort of educational kind of way. These are the facts. This is how it works. But also, hopefully, reasonably entertaining as well.
You're a radio man. You've been a radio man with Radio 1 and Radio 6 Music, but there's podcasts now, and it's a huge emerging industry. Can they sit together side by side happily?
Yeah, I think so. I really think so. What I do on radio is completely different to what we do on the podcast, and I think podcasts are a different companion. I think radio is the way you interact with radio, what you use radio for, isn't necessarily the same thing that you want from a podcast. It's a different voice in the room. There are times when I really like just listening to music and somebody talking about it, or I like listening to Radio 4, but there are other times where a discussion between two enlightened people about a subject you don't really know anything about, that's the thing that you want. So yes, they deliver different things for different times and different people.
It's all audio, and we love audio, don't we?
Yes. Long live audio.
It's day 2 of Crossed Wires, Sunday morning, and I am back at the Bethel, and I am with
Ellie Clifford. I'm head of content at Persefonica.
And we're about to do a session at 11 o'clock, so you want to make a podcast with...
This is Aradna from the Radio Academy. Hello!
Tell me about the session.
What do you need to do to actually make your own podcast? Because anyone can do it, and everyone should do it. I don't think there's such a thing as having too many podcasts. There's nothing better for your own creativity, for your well-being, to have a voice, to give voice to your community. It's a brilliant thing to do. But how do you make a really, really good podcast? How do you punch through? How do you get people to hear you, to listen, to engage with the podcast? And how do you make it grow with every episode, with every series? So I have the really, really, really special place of being able to talk to the 3 women who will tell you all about it. So we've got a commissioner and a producer from BBC Sounds, Fiona. She's going to tell you all about how to develop your ideas, how to get your collaborators, maybe how to get a little bit of money. We've got Ellie from Persefonica, who has a long history of being on the radio, being on podcasts, making podcasts, getting those pictures and commissions, to tell you all about how to actually produce a podcast. And we've got Lizzie from Acast, who's going to tell you all about the monetization side. Where should you publish your podcast? How to get your listeners.
Ellie, tell me about how you got into the industry, both radio and podcasting.
I was really lucky that I just met a lot of people on my way into the industry who had had doors opened for them by other people as they'd come up, and felt really passionate about paying it forward. And I think, I say often that radio
is about who you know, but that doesn't mean you can't get to know people. And, you know, I went to events and different things and basically bothered loads of people by the snack table at these things until eventually, you know, someone said, like, why are you here? Why are you bothering me? Do you know, I said, I want to work in radio. And actually, you know, it was really well received, and I found that people were really willing to kind of give their time, their expertise, and that's something that I try and do myself now. So yeah, I think, you know, I just said yes to a lot of opportunities at the beginning. I really went to lots of events. I was really lucky to be able to do that because I was in London. But what I love, and I think you can see it in this festival, is I know I'm slightly biased because I work for Persephonic and I know Dino, but I do think he's really passionate about trying to create that kind of energy and opportunity up here as well, so that you don't have to move away from where you've grown up in order to get into the industry. And yeah, I just think if people are listening to this who kind of are in those roles in the industry, I think we need to create more spaces where people can come together and people can meet, and you can kind of give your pearls of wisdom almost to help other people get into the industry.
It's about telling people that there are lots of different roles in audio, isn't it, Aradna? It's not just presenters and producers. There's so many other things that people can do.
Yeah, it's exactly that. You can have such a meaningful and fulfilled career in audio, but why would you know that unless somebody tells you about it? I mean, if you've spent your life listening to the radio and hearing a presenter speak to you, why would you necessarily know what goes into making that? So yes, there's sound designers, there's marketing, there's brand, there's the engineers, and there's the technologists making all of the equipment. There's so many different ways to be involved.
Social media as well.
Social media, marketing, sales. And also, you don't have to pick one. I think it's a really good idea to know what it is that drives you, what you have a passion for, where your skills lie, and how to find your contributors, find your people who is going to lift you.
Ellie, if someone's listening to this and they've got a fledgling podcast or just an idea, or they want to grow their podcast, what is your one big piece of advice for them?
If you've got something that you think really has legs, I think it's about developing it so that you really feel like you have a very, very strong idea. So if you've got something you think, I think there's something in it, I think it's about trying to hone it and refine it. And I think you see with podcasts often the simple ideas are often really strong. So, and then finding your audience. So, you know, I think everybody wants to have the next like chart-topping massive podcast, but I think you can also get so much value and like interest and love back from an audience who just are really dedicated to the thing that you're doing. And then if you think it's something that actually you want to bring, you know, kind of to Aradna's point, not just something that you do for yourself, but you want it to do it on a kind of more professional level, then I think, yeah, coming to these events, chatting to people, trying to meet with commissioners is a really great way to go in order to try and put your idea maybe onto a network or to get some more funding.
I'm Tom Parkin. I'm from the University of Sheffield, and I'm here because I'm doing a PhD in peace building, and it involves creating a podcast, and I've not done that before. So I thought it's on my doorstep. I'll come down. It's been a really, really useful session, hearing from people in industry, working out how to get started, because it's my question was about being brave, and so it's quite a difficult thing to do that and to be brave, to take that step, to be so public. And so I felt really supported today, and I've really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. So you felt inspired by the session?
Absolutely, and I would recommend seriously anyone next year, if you're here for the rest of the time, do come down. It's so friendly, great atmosphere, and just wonderful people who are kind of wishing the best for everyone, because it's quite a difficult industry to get into, and so it's nice that there is that support there for people to enjoy.
Brilliant, lovely. Go off and make a podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm with Vicky. Hi, Vicky. Why are you here at Crosswires today?
Hello, I am producing the Katie Price Show live later today.
Wow. So they've got some really big names here at Crosswires, haven't they?
They are. We're sandwiched between Adam Buxton and Catherine Ryan. So if you thought Katie Price was big, it gets bigger either side. Yeah.
Tell me about your role on that podcast then. What do you do?
So normally I'm the digital producer, so I make all of the video content for the show, which includes everything from socials and graphics to our subscription service video. But for the last couple of weeks, I've been live producing the tour. So we've currently been to London, Cardiff, Birmingham, and today we're in Sheffield. And then next week we are going to Bristol, Glasgow, and Newcastle.
We've been talking today about different jobs in the audio industry. A lot of people think, it's a presenter or a producer. There are so many different things. What you've just described there is maybe something that people don't realise you can do.
Definitely. And I think it's really important as well for people to know that you don't just have to do one. You don't just have to edit audio and then that can be your job. I literally do everything from production, digital, live. I do literally everything. A bit of tech, a bit of engineering. And I think that just makes the job so much more fun.
And so tonight's podcast, is that a live show or is that going to be recorded and put out as a podcast?
It will be recorded and put out as a subscription podcast. Right. It's mainly, though, a live show. There's a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, a lot of audience participation that might not necessarily make sense on audio.
Fair enough.
So it's a bit more of a show, but we will be condensing some of it down and putting it on the feed for anyone that wants to listen.
I'm with Oliver Coppard, who is Mayor of South Yorkshire. We've just seen the Guardian Politics Live session. Tell me about your involvement with Crossed Wires.
So Dino, Jim, Alice came to South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority that I lead and said they wanted to have a conversation about how we might develop a world-leading podcast festival here in South Yorkshire, which, you know, for me is just really exciting, and we're nothing if not ambitious at the MCA that I lead, and so kind of we had that opportunity to work with them to develop this festival, and I couldn't be prouder of it. It's been a brilliant example of where, when you have brilliant people wanting to do ambitious things, South Yorkshire is their natural home, and I'm really pleased to see how it's worked out.
There was a question about culture. Tell me about how important culture is and things like podcasting and encouraging that industry in a place like Sheffield.
Sure, look, culture, creativity is fundamental to how I see the future of South Yorkshire. We're a brilliant place with creative people right through not just our communities right now, but through our history. You look at all the kind of bands, the artists, the musicians that have come out of South Yorkshire, the things that have come out of South Yorkshire, and we're incredibly proud of all of that. But that has to be about our future too, which is why we're investing, we're putting our money where our mouth is, supporting things like Crossed Wires, working with artists, musicians, performers to make sure that we're selling South Yorkshire to the world, and I couldn't be more enthusiastic about the place of culture in our future.
I've been here all weekend, Dino, and I just think the vibe has been amazing. Are you pleased with it?
So pleased. I think when we set out to do this, we thought first year would be great, but first year of anything is establishing what this thing is in people's minds. But it seems to, like so many of the people from the podcast and radio industry, we've got people here from Amazon and Wondery who've actually partnered with us on year one, and the BBC and Acast and Apple, and everybody just said it feels like an established thing already, which is incredible. Yeah. And I think that's testament to some of the names that we've brought here. Yeah. It helps.
But there's also a kind of, like, I think a slickness that things like the branding, Nick Deacon that's done all of that gorgeous posters that are all over the city and the front of our Fringe venue and everything. Like, we had a real intention for this to feel like a national event that's happening in Sheffield. This had to feel like a really big thing that was going to grow and grow and grow, rather than being a regional thing, because not everything that happens in the regions, an expression that I loathe, has to be regional. No. Not all big national events happen in London or should happen in London. So it needed to feel like we were starting something that was kind of epic, and I really think the visual element of that has, I have had very little hand in that, so I'm not taking credit for that. It's just fantastic.
She was pushing around those big the stage production bits the other day.
Sure. I was putting the posts.
I was doing a bit of left, a bit right, a bit.
She was painting the background for the posters. That's how dirty she's got her hands. But the other thing as well is that people, without prompting from us, are already talking about next year.
Yeah.
They're like, we'd love to come back next year, or next year can we do this? And it's like, all right, so I'm glad you're assuming that there's going to be a next year. We knew there would be, but it doesn't necessarily follow to everybody. So that's great that it's already ingrained as a date in the cultural calendar, which is brilliant.
I noticed, I got off the train on Friday, Sheffield Station, there were the posters in front of me. Got in the taxi, said, what are you here for? Because I'm from Suffolk, I'm from East Anglia. Said to the taxi driver, Crossed Wires Festival, he knew exactly what I meant. He'd heard of it straight away.
Well, that's great. That's really great. I really do feel like people are talking about it, and I'm kind of just walking the length of Cambridge Street all day, which is where Bethel Chapel, our Fringe venue, is, and then at the top of the road is City Hall, our kind of main headline venue, and that's sort of where I've been, is going between those two places. And I keep bumping into people, and they keep saying, I won't keep you, I'm sure you're busy, and we just saw this show and we loved it, or we've got tickets for this thing later, and it really does feel like it is the talk of the town, and that feels really special.
it is a 3-year deal, so like you said, we've had this year. There are 2 more to come. How are you going to grow it and expand it, or have you even thought about that yet?
There's going to be more than another 2 years. I mean, we're obviously already going to start having conversations with people about sponsoring and partnering with us, for years to come.
Can we have Monday off, though?
We'll have Monday off. Monday off. We're back on it on Tuesday. But what I would say about next year, I think one of the things that we talked about in the early days of our planning for this was experiential, was about like mixing like surprising guests together who you wouldn't normally expect, and we're just sort of testing that idea in year 1. So Catherine Ryan is bringing Emily Dean from Walking the Dog podcast on tonight, so we're having 2 podcasters there on stage who wouldn't normally do something together, and I think we want to keep like pushing that and encouraging people to get, like you did a bit with just intro John Ronson the other day, but wouldn't it be nice if like we did Greg and Alice in conversation?
Yes.
So just putting people together and seeing what happens in those surprising, unplanned conversations. Like one of our taglines is
Tangled
chats, no edit, unscripted. Like we sort of want there to be that element of surprise, so you don't just turn up knowing exactly what you're going to get. And can we do some shows in like non-traditional venues? We were talking about, we had Danny Robbins and Uncanny here last night, which was sold out and packed, and we were in the pub with his team afterwards talking about what we could do next year, and he's like, there's some really haunted venues here in the city. Could we do like a walking tour, like a ghost tour?
I love that.
I love that idea.
So isn't that so cool? So it's already sparking like what we could do and how we push boundaries, and it not just be come and see a show, go home. And like, look, today after Adam Buxton in Self-Esteem, there's going to be an after party here. People already know about it, so we booked a DJ who's a massive fan of Adam's to come down. So yeah, it just feels like, the tagline, the UK's biggest podcasting party, and that we want that to continue. Absolutely.
Well, I think it's been amazing. I've had a wonderful weekend. It's been a wonderful success. Thank you both so much.
Thanks for your support. Thank you.
Thank you to Crossed Wires Festival for a fabulous weekend of podcasting in Sheffield. You can sign up to their mailing list ready to find out who'll be there next year at crossedwires.live. The early bird discount for the Radio Academy Festival on the 18th of September ends on the 12th of June, so make sure you check out our website radioacademy.org/festival so you don't miss out. Tickets have also gone on sale for our next Foot in the Door event in Manchester on the 26th of June, so go to radioacademy.org/training for more details. Finally, we wanted to acknowledge the sad passing of Rob Burrow, who was with us at the Arias in May. That night he took home gold for Best New Podcast and the Creative Innovation Award, and silver in the Impact Award for his podcast 7 with BBC Radio Leeds. Here he is at the Arias accepting the gold for Best New Podcast, and his warmth, bravery and humour is how we will always remember him. I'll see you next week.
Gold winner for Best New Podcast goes to 7, Rob Burrow, BBC Radio Leeds.
Best New Podcast, what a result. The last big trophy I lifted was at the Super League final in 2017. This one isn't as big, but it certainly is a special. I want to say thank you to the judges and the Radio Academy for recognising that this podcast is a good one. This is the first time someone like me, who has motor neuron disease and uses a gaze machine to communicate, has been given the chance to present a podcast. Thank you for having the patience to work with me and being brave enough to give me a microphone, trusting that I won't say something that would get you in trouble.